I want to talk to you today about my favourite book characters. And it's because a few reasons, really. Firstly, we go away on holiday tomorrow, and I've been poorly this last week. I just had no motivation to try and plan content. And I was sat yesterday feeling sorry for myself, thinking, right, how am I going to get another video out before I go away? And what can I talk about? So I was like, well, actually, the book that I'm currently reading, I absolutely love. It's one of my favourite books ever. And I thought, why? Why am I enjoying this book so much? And it's the characters. The characters in this story, the journey they go on is what just consumed me in this series and has made it become one of my favourite series that I've ever read. So I thought, well, why don't I just do a video and talk about my favourite characters that I've ever read in books? Not all fantasy series, some are in crime books and other books. So I've got a list here of books that include some of my favourite characters ever. And I've got a list here of books that I've bought solely based on recommendations from some of you and some Reddit videos. I dive into Reddit loads, so I'll get my phone, I'll just Google best characters in books, and then I go onto the subreddits and I just see what people recommend. They're wicked over there. They don't give many spoilers, and if there are spoilers, a lot of the time they'll blank it out and be like, don't read this, there's spoilers. So these are books that I bought mainly because I went onto Reddit, and there's one book I think that one of you recommended that is high on my list. And I just wanted to talk about them. We went yesterday, when I say we, me, my wife and my daughter went yesterday to watch Six the Musical. That was absolutely spectacular, one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed in my entire life. It was like eye-opening. I got to the end of Six and we walked outside and I said to my wife, I was like, it's such a weird feeling. I watched that entire show and at the end of it, I was proud to be a woman. She's like, babe, you're not a woman. I was like, I know. But watching that show just made me wish I was a woman, and it made me wish I could be proud to be a woman. It was so empowering. I had no idea what to expect when I went to watch that show. My daughter sings songs all the time, but I didn't actually know what the show was about. And it's the story of Henry VIII and his 6 wives, but it focuses mainly on his 6 wives and how they were made famous, and the fact that they were only made famous because they were married to Henry VIII. And it tells you about the story of what they went through, and at the end, there's like a nice twist on it that made you realise that actually the wives were the stars of the show, not Henry VIII and his greedy, like, penis thinking self. Really, really recommend it. If you're into shows and things like that, it's so cool. I think 90% of the audience there were women. There was probably like only 10% men in the audience. And I understand why. The show is definitely aimed at empowerment for women. But I think most men could go and watch that and take something away from it. I certainly did. As a dad to 2 daughters, I respect my wife and stuff like that. But I came away with like a newfound respect for having girls and my wife. Wicked. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about books. So I might as well talk to you first about the book that I recently fell in love with, which is the Robin Hobb Realm of the Elderlings. I've spoke about this, so I'm not going to kind of keep piping on about it. You already know that I'm madly in love with this series. Book 1, very slow burn, but I enjoyed the slow burn. I went into it knowing that it was going to be slow. Not much really happened. This follows Fitz, who's a 6-year-old boy, and it follows him till he's about 14-year-old, just trying to navigate life through a royal family. He's the bastard child of the next king in line, and it's safe to say that he goes through a tough time. So this book I really enjoyed. Loved watching Fitz grow, loved how imperfect he was, and just loved seeing some of the silly mistakes that he made just because he solely wanted to fit in. And I thought, right, Robin Hobb's character work here is fantastic. Let me get into book 2. So I then picked up book 2, and book 2 was just a level up. I don't know how it can be a level up, because I gave book 1 5 stars. I gave book 2 5 stars as well. But it just introduces more characters who are even, I don't know if I want to say better, equally as good. It adds a girl called Catrican. I'm terrible with fantasy names, but she's just absolutely badass. She's from a different part of the world where they have different values and things like that, but she brings them values to a royal family who are kind of set in their own ways, and she makes the people in the town watch her and go, shit, maybe she's onto something here. She's just powerful. She doesn't just kind of sit down and take shit because she's told she has to, because she's a queen and the king makes all the decisions. She will go against the king, and it's just wicked to watch. You read some of her chapters and you're like, shit, go do it. Go on, lass. She's just right hard. Anyway, she's absolutely kick-ass. Then there's another girl called Patience who, in book 1, I was like, I don't know if I like Patience, but in book 2, you realise that Patience has made like a lot of sacrifices for Fitz, and she's just like gunning for him. She wants him to do well. She wants him to succeed, and she's just got so much faith in him. Fitz is a character that almost has little faith in himself, and the people around him have got so much faith in him that it kind of builds him up. And Patience is one of them characters. Then you've got Burrich, or Burrich, however you want to pronounce it. He was in book 1. He's like a stable master who... he's got a lot more to him, and as the books go, it's such a progressive character arc with him. You don't see much, you don't give much away. It's just one of them blokes that just gives nothing away. But as story progresses, book 1 and 2 progresses, you start seeing more and more and more of him, and he just... you can't help but let him just grow on you as a character. There are just so many amazing characters in this book. Molly, who is Fitz, is... I'm just saying I hope she's his future wife. There's like a romance subplot in the background, and Molly is quite happy to just take a back seat for Fitz. She's like, look, you've got to do your royal family stuff. I understand that me and you are probably never going to be, and I'll just sit here and wait. But then as the story progresses, she gets more and more and more frustrated at the fact that she literally is kind of last thought, and eventually she's like, boy, you better get your shit together. Either you pick me or I'm bouncing. And she just gains like an inner strength, and it was just beautiful to see. I am blown away with how many fantastic characters even there are in Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings. Super excited to get further into this. I did take a little break from book 2. I finished book 2 about 2 days ago, and we're going away on holiday tomorrow. I just can't physically read a dense fantasy book when I'm on holiday with kids, because they're just like, I've told you before, dad, pick me. So I've picked up a lighter book to read between now and when I come back off holiday, but I will be diving straight into the 3rd book of the Farseer Trilogy when we get back off holiday. Can't wait to dive further into this world. I plan on probably reading the next series, which I think is the Live Ship Traders, this year, and then I'm probably going to do 2 series a year of the Realm of the Elderlings. I don't want to rush it, because I don't think it's a series you should rush. If you are going to go into this, it's a series that you need to take your time with. There's a lot of political intrigue, family dynamics. It reminds me of what people say the Game of Thrones is about. I've never watched or read Game of Thrones, but a lot of people say it's about like family dynamics and things like that, and political intrigue. And that's what it seems like to me. There's not loads of action and stuff like that, but when the action does come in book 2 at least, it is quite dark. I think the battle scenes are cool. They're not overdone, but I don't think it's necessary for the story. So just go into it expecting mystery, family drama, and political intrigue. Really, really good if you're into that sort of stuff. Next up, we've got Jaraba, the Blade itself. One of my favourite characters that I've read in fantasy. I've probably only been reading fantasy now for like a year and a half or so, but Glocta in this story is absolutely fantastic. One of the reasons he's my favourite is because he's one of the few characters that's ever made me consider what it's like to be disabled. He is a cripple, so he was captured by the enemy in war and tortured to the point where he now can barely walk. The inner dialogue that he has about what it's like to not be able to walk up and down stairs. There's a line in here that basically talks about the fact that stairs are his greatest enemy and his greatest fear. And it just felt real. It was one of them things where you're just like, wow, imagine being more scared of stairs than a sword. And Jaraba just did a brilliant job of making you consider what it is actually like to be disabled, and just made me grateful to be able to walk up and down a set of stairs. And I think the fact that an author can do that says that he's done his job well. There's other things about like soiling his bed, and he goes into some grim detail in this story when it comes to Glocta and how his life is lived because of his disabilities. But it's necessary. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Look, don't get me wrong, Logan Ninefingers even is a brilliant character as well. He's on like a massive revenge tour. He has lost everything, and that is just a man that is just out for vengeance. But Glocta's story just absolutely had my heart, and I can't wait to get further into this. I've heard that this is one of the slower books, and I'll be honest, that's why I didn't pick up book 2 straight away, because although the characters in this book grabbed me, the plot, it just didn't interest me really as much as the Assassin's Apprentice did, which seems a bit like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not hypocritical. It seemed ironic because not much happens either in that book, but I don't know, it grabbed me, and this plot at least didn't. But I am told that book 2 and book 3 get way, way, way better, so I'm excited to dive further into that one. Would it be a character video without talking about Wise Gamji? I put off reading Lord of the Rings for so long because I couldn't get through the first chapter. I tried reading chapter 1 so many times and I was just like, this is boring. I can't listen to another description of what a hobbit looks like. It's just mind-numbing. Eventually, I got through it and I'm so happy I did. I got through all of these, absolutely loved them, and I ate them up. What I tried to do with this is I tried to not think too much about the lore and the world that Tolkien has built and just enjoy the story. And when I put everything else to the side and just enjoyed the story for what it is, which is the there and back again adventure, I absolutely loved it. The star of the show for me there was Samwise Gamgee and his just sheer loyalty for Frodo. No matter what happened, Sam was just like, look, where Frodo goes, that's where I'm going. I don't care what happens, I don't care what danger is in the way. I am going where Frodo goes, and if that means I die because Frodo dies, cool, whatever, I'm with it. And it was fantastic. I also did love, as a side note, the relationship between Gimli and Legolas. I thought their little bromance was fantastic, and the loyalty that they started to grow for each other was cool. But Samwise Gamgee in this trilogy, we all need a Samwise Gamgee in our life. Robert Galbraith, Cuckoo's Calling. This is one I finished recently. This is I want to say police procedural, but it's not really a proper police procedural because it's more a private detective. So it is a murder mystery, but it's not necessarily police procedural. It's more PI work. The reason I wanted to include this one is because I thought the two characters in this were really, really good. The plot in this story is quite slow. A lot happens. There's a lot of over-explaining. Some of the words are quite flowery and unnecessary in my opinion, but the character work's fantastic. Strike is the lead detective in this, or lead PI, whatever you want to call it, and he is a war veteran, but he's also, similar to Glockter, disabled from war, so he's got a prosthetic leg, and there's a lot of talk in the story about what it's like to have a prosthetic leg, the embarrassment that you get from maybe having a prosthetic that other people don't know about, and how you can hide that from other people, and how it affects him. There's a lot of internal dialogue about the thoughts that he's got about how he can tell Robin who is the other person, or not necessarily how he can tell, about how he's trying to hide it from her. And there's also things that Robin, who is she comes into the job as a secretary, and there's a lot of inner dialogue with her, how she's noticing that he's maybe limping and things like that, and there's a lot of thoughts with her. She's like, what's wrong with his leg? Why is he not telling me about it? And I just thought the way it was done was really, really cool. He's got PTSD as well from war, and I just thought it was a brilliant, like the author had taken a lot of time to build these characters up. And look, these books are thick. I did really, really enjoy it, but solely because of the character work, I am definitely keen to get further into this series. I've already bought book 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I think they're all on my shelf somewhere. You can see some on top shelves. I don't know what other ones are, but they're there somewhere. Really good character work in this if you're into good character work. I know a lot of kind of not fantasy, thriller and mystery books tend to lean a lot onto the plot and twists and things like that. That is definitely a slower story focusing more on characters, but I'm here for it. I like to read different books. I don't always want just fast plots in my mystery books. Would it be a me video without talking about Dungeon Crawler Call? This isn't book 1 in the series. This was just the first one that I picked up off my shelf, and Princess Donut. If you've watched my videos before, you already know that I absolutely adore this series. It's one of my favourite series of all time. It's just a happy place. It's a really, really good story. As the series progresses, it definitely gets darker and gets more into the trauma of what these characters are going through. But Princess Donut is a talking cat. And if you don't know and have never watched one of my videos or seen this book recommended, it's the story of a man in a pair of boxer shorts and a cat that get dragged into a dungeon by aliens who have taken over Earth. They're then told, look, if you can get through these dungeons, there's 18 of them or something stupid, then we'll send you back to Earth, but you've got to get through them all. Within the first kind of 10 minutes of being in this dungeon, the cat gets the ability to talk. Once this cat can talk, she's just the sassiest, most dramatic, energetic cat you have ever come across in your life, and it's just absolutely wicked. She doesn't take anything really that seriously that needs to be taken seriously, but the things that she does take seriously, just like she just shouldn't. She wants to be the star of the show, and she can't seem to understand in her head that, look, this is our life at risk here. Like, we might not get out of it. She's like, yeah, but let me just be number one. I just want the people to love me. Let me perform. She's just a performer. And then you've got Carl on the other hand, who's just like, princess, just rein it in. Let us just get to the next level. And she's like, yeah, we'll get to the next level, but let's do it in style. Let's give the people what they want to see. It's wild. This is definitely a series that I recommend that everyone picks up, whether you are into fantasy or not. I don't think it's necessarily just aimed at fantasy readers. It's just aimed at people that want to have a good time. Dungeon Crawler Call is book 1. They're all on Kindle Unlimited, and if you read it, it's fantastic because some of the bits that Princess Donut does are highlighted in like caps letters. So there's a little thing where they've got like an internal communication system, almost like game chat. But in there, she keeps typing in caps locks, and Carl's like, Princess, just turn off the caps locks. It's like you're screaming at me all the time. She's like, I can't turn it off, and it's just hilarious. The audiobooks as well are top tier. One of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. I've only listened to one of them. I think it was book 4 that I listened to some of, and it was spectacular. So if you're into audiobooks, the audiobooks for these are absolutely just wicked. Next up, we've got a book that I think is massively underrated, The Lies of Lot Lamura by Scott Lynch. I don't think it's underrated in a sense that it gets low scores on Goodreads. I think the scores are fair. I think it's rated something like 4.5, 4.6. It's just not many people talk about it. If you're into heist stories, this is one that you absolutely need to boost right to the top of your TBR. It's the story of a thief who basically just doesn't belong anywhere. Right at the start of the story, he is given away to like a guy that runs a gang of thieves. He's already owned by a guy that runs a gang of thieves, and he basically says, look, you can have this lad because he's a little shit, he's causing me loads of trouble. And he's like, wow, what's the matter with him? It's like, he's stealing too much. And he's like, how can he steal too much? He's a thief. He's like, just he cannot stop stealing stuff. He just steals everything that he sees. And it's a story of him, and it's a beautiful story of like found family. He's got a group of thieves with him. And it's so hard to not give away stuff in this story. You need to just go into this and just enjoy the ride. The story like of Locke and what he goes through and the people that he finds and the friends that he makes, it's just beautiful. It's funny, the dialogue's fantastic. I know some people don't read this because it's a trilogy. It's a series anyway, and it's not complete yet. But this can be read as a standalone. I've only read book 1 so far. I've not read book 2 or book 3. I've got them on my shelf, but I've not read them because it's not complete yet. But I read this and I was happy. It kind of ended in a way that I didn't necessarily need to pick up book 2 and book 3. The writing's brilliant. The dialogue's fantastic. It's just a really, really, really great time. Lies of Lot Lamura by Scott Lynch, and Locke himself is a fantastic character. A little bit darker in The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 1 in the Stormlight Archive. I know a lot of people put this off because it's massive, and then you've got to get through The Words of Radiance, and then Oathbringer, and then Rhythm of War, and then what's the last one called? Wind and Truth. There's a lot of books with a lot of pages and a lot of words to get through, but it's worth it. For me, I just think I've had a twist this year where I've thought I'm going to stop trying to read loads of books and just read books that I enjoy. I don't care if they're 1,200 pages, I don't care if they're 300 pages. If I'm enjoying the book, I don't care how long it takes. I'm not trying to impress anyone and read 100 books a year. Whatever I read, I read. My main aim is just to enjoy what I'm reading. And I enjoyed this book so much. Yes, it is 1,100 pages, and yes, it did take me about 2 or 3 weeks. But every single page that I spent with Kaladin in this book was amazing. And I'm not going to say that Kaladin's the only good character in this story. He's not. Some people have different favourite characters in this world. But Kaladin's story in Bridge 4 for me in this was just unreal. The representation of like mental health struggles was fantastic. Kaladin is like an ex-warrior who is captured and becomes a slave. And while he is a slave, this is me trying to not give too much away in this series, he gets put on bridges. So the way that wars are fought in this world is they send the slaves out with these bridges, and the slaves' job is to put the bridges at these kind of like gaps in walls, and then the soldiers then will walk over these bridges. But obviously, as the slaves are all walking, they're getting fired arrows at, they're losing slaves left, right and centre, and Kaladin's story is just basically trying to bring all these slaves together and build some camaraderie and make them realise actually we're more than just slaves. We can be more than this, and there's a future for us. And he's just trying to build that kind of internal belief with this group of people. The people that are around him are brilliant. He builds up so many people, but there's also characters within Bridge 4 that are there for him when he needs them as well. And it's just spectacular. Honestly, Kaladin's story was one of the best characters and best story arcs that I've read since I picked up a fantasy book. Highly recommend it. Again, I know it's scary. 1,200 page books for people out there that have got kind of reading goals for the year. But I genuinely encourage you to try and change your reading goal. And rather than saying, look, I want to read 50 books this year, just tell yourself, I just want to read books that I enjoy this year. It doesn't matter whether you read 10 books that you absolutely love or 50 books that you might think are all right. I just want to read books this year that I really enjoy. And I know that I'm going to enjoy this series. I'm told that book 2 is even better than book 1. So I will pick it up at some point. But as you might have guessed from earlier on in the video, I'm in a bit of a Robin Hobb hole at the minute that I'm not even trying to dig myself out of it, 'cause it's fantastic. Once I'm out of that Robin Hobb hole, I will get back to Brandon Sanderson. Next up, we've got another police procedural-esque kind of book. M.W. Craven's Washington Post series. These are just different because, as I said before, a lot of crime authors spend a lot of time focusing on plot and fast-paced stories, whereas I appreciate the fact that M.W. Craven, with the Washington Post series, takes some time as well to build the characters in here with Washington Poe and Tilly Bradshaw. Washington Poe is like he's just a grumpy arsehole. When you start reading the story, you're like, oh, he's a grumpy old man. He's not necessarily old, but you know, he just gives off that aura of grumpy old man. He don't really let anyone in. And then he comes across Tilly Bradshaw, who is his like computer whiz kid tech girl that does everything kind of clever for him. She is quite clearly autistic, but it's not necessarily mentioned within there. But she shows a lot of autistic traits. She like hard focuses on a lot of things. She's really, really analytical. She's not really got much of a filter. She says things that maybe aren't socially acceptable, and then Washington has to bring her back in. He's like, Tilly, you shouldn't really say that. She's like, why? He's like, you just shouldn't. So she starts to grow a lot as a character. People skills become more, let's say, socially acceptable within the story, but she also brings a side of Washington Poe out that is just necessary, and I appreciate the time that M.W. Craven spent on this. If you've not read this series, book 1 is The Puppet Show. It doesn't need to be read in order. They can definitely all be read as standalones, but if you are into police procedural mystery kind of book, I definitely recommend the Washington Poe series by M.W. Craven. Last up on the ones that I have read is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. Absolutely loved this book and this series so much. The star of the show for me was Orca. Orca is a mum who suffers great loss right at the start of the story, and her story arc is one of vengeance and trying to overcome heartache and also get back something that belongs to her. And it's fantastic to watch. There's not many fantasy authors, I've said this in previous stories, there's not many male fantasy authors at least that do good, strong female characters. And John Gwynne just does fantastic, like, strong female characters. Orca is a female character. There's another one in here, I think her name's Elvar. I can't remember, it's been a while since I read this. She's also a strong female character. But Orca's arc and what she goes through and like what John Gwynne has done in this book and in the way that he's shown like how powerful women are and can be in different ways to men, and how they don't necessarily always just they don't always have to use just physical strength. There's more to it than that. I mean, don't get me wrong, she is badass, she is strong, but she also shows characteristic traits that I think sometimes we as men can struggle to show. I definitely recommend you that you read that. Shadow of the Gods is book 1. I think Hunger of the Gods is book 2. And another Something to Do with Gods is book 3. Really good if you're into it. It's Norse inspired. There's gods and dragons. And there's all sorts of like Norse inspired stuff. Now these books here are all books that I've not read, as I said before. And books that I've literally purchased or been purchased solely because of recommendations about characters. Nothing to do with plot. People have either said, you need to read this because of this character, or I've gone on to Reddit and someone said this is one of the best characters I've ever read in my entire life. Starting with a recommendation that I got recently, which is Ben Aronovich's River of London series. I was told that this is kind of like CSI meets Harry Potter, and the main character in this, called Peter Grant, is just really good. It's meant to be quite funny. The dialogue in it, really funny. I'm guessing, just based off looking at the back of it, that the guy used to be like a Met police officer, and they ask him back, but he's tasked with solving like supernatural crimes to do with magic shit. I don't know much more than that. My idea behind telling you about these ones is that I'm going to tell you why I bought them, and then hopefully if you've read them you can be like, oh yeah, actually that character was absolutely class, or actually there's another character in that story that I loved even more. So yeah, please tell me. I don't know anything more about that other than the fact that it is kind of like Harry Potter meets CSI. Next up, we've got Game of Thrones. I told you earlier on in the video, I've not read Game of Thrones and I've not watched the series. Me and my wife, I think, watched episode 1 about a year ago, but she's scared of zombies, and there was some like weird White Walker or something people, that I don't know what they were called, but anyway, some weird creepy looking folk, and she's just not normally into that sort of stuff. It scares her. She won't watch Walking Dead, so we haven't watched it. I've been told that there's a fella in here called Tyrion Lannister, and he's meant to be one of the best characters in modern fantasy. So that's what Reddit said. Solely based on what Reddit said, I bought the entire series. So I've got all of the books sat downstairs waiting to be read, and I plan on reading them. The only thing that's put me off so far is the fact that this is an incomplete series and looks like it might never be complete. But my logic is, what I could do is read all the books up to where it ends and then just watch the TV series and just get like a weird kind of completion, and then cross my fingers one day that George R.R. Martin might get out the pen again and decide to finish it. So yeah, tell me who your favourite character was in Game of Thrones if you've read it. This is a, not controversial, this is a weird one for me because I've not really enjoyed Stephen King so far, but a lot of people have said to me his character work's really good. The books that I've read so far, I didn't really enjoy. Pet Sematary, that's probably more of a me problem because horror stories don't tend to do anything for me. I didn't enjoy Misery. I got bored of the woman walking in and out of room describing mangled legs. I was just like, how many times do I need to know this guy's legs are fucked up? I get it. Move on. And Carrie. I thought Carrie was okay. It was probably better than the film because it focused more on the trauma that Carrie went through with her mum. Her mum was an absolute waste of space and horrible. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. But again, it was only a short book, so there's only so much you can get involved in a short book. But I have been told that there's a guy in this called Randall Flagg, and he's meant to be absolutely class. So I got it solely based on the fact, again, that people said to me, there's some wicked characters in this book. I think there's like an 100-year-old woman as well. Mother Abigail, it says on the back. 108-year-old, she's not bad, has she? What a good innings. 1,200 pages, though. What can you have to say in, like, I don't even know what it is. Is it a thriller? Is it post-apocalyptic, maybe? A biological testing facility? I don't even know what kind of book this is. All I know is it's a standalone book that's 1,200 pages long. That's sure as shit better be good. I mean, that gives the author a lot of opportunity to make some fantastic characters in 1,200 pages. So if there's no good characters in that book, I'll tell you now, I'll be disappointed. Next up, we've got Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, book 1 being The Stormfront. I still haven't picked this up yet, and I don't know why, because it screams, Tyrone, you'll love me. Everything about this book, similar to, what's it called? That Rivers of London, it gives off kind of urban fantasy setting. So without opening this book and realising what it's about, it feels like it's going to be modern day detective investigating like witches and wizards and shit. That's what it looks like from the back. But the reason that I picked this book up again is because I went onto Reddit and there were loads of people on there that said, is his name Jim Dresden, James Dresden, Harry Dresden? Nowhere near. Who's Jim? And Dresden, what's that fish and chip shop called in England? Dresden, Harry Ramsden's. Oh, it's one of them days. I didn't sleep much last night. I'm not going to edit any of this out because I can't be bothered. So anyway, went on Reddit. Loads of people said that his character arc is spectacular. As the series progresses, it gets better and better and better and better. Book 1, 2 and 3, I think I've been warned by a lot of you lot, are quite slow. But if I can get past them, then it just gets better and better and better. This is just one of them series that I'm buzzing for. I know that I'm just going to get immersed in this, and it's going to be one of them where I can pick it up, have some fun with it. I mean, book 1's only 305 pages, so that's hardly scary, is it? I could even take this away on holiday with me when we go away tomorrow. So yeah, if you've read that, tell me what you think are Harry Ramsden, Harry Dresden, fucking chip shops. For anyone that's not English, Harry Ramsden's is a fish and chip shop in England. I think it's because we're going away tomorrow. I'm thinking fish and chips because we're into Cleethorpes and there's fish and chip shops there and shit. Terry Pratchett, Mort. The reason I picked Mort up is because Death's in it. This is one of the characters that I'm most excited to read this year. I read book 1 in the Discworld this month. Was it this month or last month? But anyway, I'm trying to read one Discworld book a month, every month forever until I finish them. And Death popped up in the first book, which was The Colour of Magic, I think it was called. And it just made me laugh. He was just always on the outskirts loitering, waiting for someone to die. And he was like, come on, come see me. And then they were all like, no, not yet. And I just know that I'm going to love more because I believe this is the first book that includes death within it. I think that Terry Pratchett, when he made the Discworld, he's done loads of like sub-series. So Death's got his own books. The Witches, I think, I've said this before, are they witches? They do magic shit and stuff anyway. And then there's the Rincewind books with that tourist fella that follows him around. Two Flowers, is that what his name is? And yeah, but I think they must all interlink because Death is in book 1 anyway, at least. So I'm guessing he's probably going to just flit up and try and grab everyone whenever they die. Super excited to read Death's books. And lastly, what have we got here? Lonesome Dove. This is a book that I'm planning on reading this summer because I started reading chapter 1. And this is how weird my brain works. I'll read in chapter 1 and it will rate warm. Like in the book, it will warm. I could feel it will warm. They were like, I could just imagine tumbleweed and sand and dry grass and heat. And I was like, ooh, this feels like the kind of book I need to read in summer. So I'm going to put it down and read it in summer. So this, I plan on reading this year in the summer. How many times can you say summer? But I've read again on Reddit that loads of people love some of the characters in here, the relationships they all build, the mission they go on. I think the first 200 pages in this book is basically just about horses, so I'm not sure if that's going to bore me a little bit. But as long as the character works good while they're talking about horses, I think it'll keep me engaged. I'm so sorry there's not been much of a plan to this video. Again, I've been really poorly this last week, chucking cold and flu tablets down me. We went away yesterday to watch Six in Stoke, which was spectacular. I'm right at the back end of this bug, whatever it's been. And I've been drugging myself for the last few days, trying to get better to make sure I can have a good time away with kids. I picked up yesterday to read while I'm away. I think it's called, I forgot what it's called. It's a book about... But yeah, this is all I've got to give you today. There's not going to be another video probably now for about another week. In about a week's time, I'd expect to get another one uploaded because we're going away on holiday, as I said, and I can't read many books when kids are off school because they want attention from me, the dad. I didn't get attention from my dad, so I'll try and give my kids some attention to make up for all the undealt with trauma that I've got about my own dad. What a waste, man. Anyway, if you've watched till this point, I love you the most. If you've not already subscribed, do it. And if you've watched till this point and you haven't subscribed, why? Come on, you must find me a bit entertaining or something. Oh, anyway, I'm going. I love you so much. Bye for now.